So tell me a little bit about yourself. When do you get into the industry? What kind of clients do you train? Stuff like that.
Yeah, I've been coaching for 5 years now. Started out unofficially, so to speak, early on. Friends, family, coworkers, anyone that I could get my hands on and get that experience. I seriously lacked confidence in getting into this arena, this industry in the first place. And after doing research on, well, how do other people do this? How do they get started? Everyone's saying just train people for free. Like, there's a reason you're not confident. You haven't done it. Like, this is like everything else in life. Like, this whole imposter syndrome thing, it's like you shouldn't feel confident. Why would you? I'm like, okay, that kind of makes sense. And the gym I was going to, I was able to bring guests for free, so it wasn't even this weird thing where I had to work out the logistics. I just started inviting people to come with me. So yeah, I started out doing it for free, and then I got certified right before the lockdown happened, which ended up being the best thing that could have ever happened to me because the restaurant I was managing closed down for 3 or 4 months. All my people in the area are seeing me and my wife work out in our apartment living room floor because we got rid of our dining room table, got rid of the chairs, got a squat rack. We're hitting the all these local used like workout equipment stores. We're just getting our hands on anything we can find. And so one thing led to another. They start coming through. Hey, wait a minute, you're a trainer? I go, well, I'm certified. I haven't necessarily started yet. And then this light bulb goes off like, this is it. This is how it starts. So start training people odd hours, daytime, nighttime. Like the 7 day week didn't even matter for so many of us because it's just like no one's working. We're just kind of out here figuring out what happens next. So let's get a workout in. And then the restaurant reopened a few months later. I start doing both for a little while, and then I get up with this private facility here in Raleigh, and the rest is history. So
That is absolutely awesome. So did you like pick up online clients before you got in-person clients, or was it kind of like where did you get your paying clients first? Was it in person or online?
in person, yep. And then all those first in-person clients turned into online clients later down the road, on and off. So that worked out in a really really cool way. But yeah, just people I knew, just people in the area. Again, they see in my Instagram and Facebook story that everyone's hungry for the gym, right? They're like, wait a minute, this guy's working out. This isn't fair. I need to work out. All the gyms are closed, and they're sending me messages like, how much for a day pass? Ha ha ha, like cracking a joke. And it's like, no, no, don't even worry about that. Just come on down. And so yeah.
That's awesome, man. Like I'm a huge advocate of that too because it took me forever to learn the whole like imposter syndrome thing. Probably way too long. Like, man, I just feel like I don't know what I'm doing, and then deep down I'm like, it's because I don't. It's pretty awesome that you like took that leap and decided to start doing it for free. Is that something you recommend to other people doing first too, or how would you recommend someone else and you like wanting to get started in this industry?
Absolutely. If they have zero experience, I mean, you can't go wrong with doing it for free, even for the sake of when you have that first interview or like something we were doing at the gym I was working at towards the end, we would basically have them run through a workout on their own and tell us why they're doing what they're doing. And then myself or another trainer would go through the movement. They would coach them. Even something like that, you're just not going to be as confident doing that if in the moment you realize, oh shit, this is the first time I've ever cued someone like in person. Like I've done it in my mind, I've thought about it, I've imagined it, but you don't want to get tongue twisted and starts feeling that sweat, running down your sides. You're like, oh my God, I've never done this. So yeah, just for that reason alone, like anyone that you can get on board, friends, family, coworkers, and honestly, when it is free, there's not as much pressure, so you're going to be a lot more relaxed and probably a little more in that flow state. If you actually know your stuff and you're on your A game, you're going to reveal to yourself, hey, I'm actually pretty good at this because there's no pressure. It's just a homie. You're explaining why we're going to do this and that, and then you get to take that with you when you go to that first interview or first gym or whatever. So
Nothing beats real life hands-on experience. No matter how much you study, it's definitely a life-changing experience. Did you so you started up during right before COVID, started doing some stuff for free, and then restaurant shuts down, you start trying to promote yourself by working out online and advertising that. So what are you doing now to try to get the word out there? Are you still just following the same formula or how are you like getting the word out there about your coaching now?
yeah, these days I utilize paid ads to an extent. Word of mouth is huge. Word of mouth is probably the most important because If you have a great relationship with your client and they have nothing but good things to say about you, and they say those things to someone else, there's like this built-in trust, and it skips the first 10 layers of doubt or the first 10 stages of, well, do I want to do it? It's like, oh, this is my homie. They're saying this has been a great experience. They're already kind of bought in. So referrals are huge. Got a handful of clients through that. Word of mouth, just being just being undeniable, just really caring, just giving a shit. Like if you give it your all and really give your clients above and beyond attention to detail, checking in even when it's not a day that you guys are working out, like that stuff goes a long way. And then you don't even have to ask them to do a referral thing. It just happens naturally. They want to let their people know, like, hey, you need to go see my guy. So yeah, referrals, a little bit of paid ads. Um, just being social. That's been a big light bulb moment for me in the last few months. Like I'm sure we'll get into this. I'm actually excited to get into this because this is a very recent kind of top of mind type of thing. I've been very heavy with social media, content, video, like very active in the stories, right? And I've kind of realized lately I have these neighbors around me. I have the person at the grocery store that's scanning my groceries. Like there's all these real people that are actually around me. And just by striking up a conversation, looking the part, being a normal, nice person, there's a really good chance the conversation is going to eventually lead to, "Well, what do you do?" "Oh, I'm a trainer." "Oh, that's what I need." "Oh, why do you need that? What's the problem?" "Oh, well, I mean, look at me." "No, come on. What's the problem?" "I could probably lose 20." "Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, I mean, if we worked out this many times a week, we could knock that out in like 3 months or less. Do you want to come by for an intro thing?" Like normal conversations, just very, very organic, right? I'm realizing, like I said, this is kind of a recent thing, how valuable that is.
So, so if I understand this correctly, to be a good coach and like pick up clients, you need to actually care about people. Weird.
100%. Yeah, crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's so like I feel like that's one thing that I see all the time in the fitness industry. Is just like everyone's talking about the money and how to get more money and all this other stuff, but people lose track of the fact that this is like a relationship building business, and like going out there and building authentic relationships like makes a world of difference. So that's really cool that
absolutely.
that's basically the cornerstone of your entire strategy. So you're going hard into social media right now. What kind of stuff are you focusing on with your posting?
Well, so it's funny you ask that. Like I said, this has all been kind of a recent thing on my mind. I've done a couple of detoxes in the last few months, like took off all the apps just to give my mind like time to heal and really be more methodical with how I approach all this stuff. And recently, it's like, all right, who's on the other side of this screen? What would they like to know? What do they need to know? What can I do and say that's going to establish value and give free value to them as a coach, as a trainer, versus just me having like stream of consciousness saying everything that's on my mind on my stories, like I'm doing this, I'm thinking this, because I have a very active mind. I'm a very creative, big imagination person, so it'd be very easy for me just to rant for literally hours, which I've done on my stories and whatever else, even speaking videos. And even as I'm going to post it, sometimes I'm like, what is the message?
What am
Like
I
what is
trying
the
to say?
what is the point in this video? Like I like it. It's making me laugh. It's entertaining, I guess. I mean, I'm checking that box. Got to post, every weekday, even weekends. So I've had a crazy high output all of this year. And it's one of those things where it's like quantity versus quality. Well, let me smoke the quantity, and then the quality will just naturally go up, which that is true. That has happened. But I've also had this realization that there is only so much time, there's only so many hours in the day. If I could peel back a little bit, put a little more thought into it, and really deliver a valuable message that someone, as soon as that video is done, knows something they didn't know or has a practical takeaway, it's going to be better, right? So going into 2025, there's going to be a lot of changes to how I approach all this stuff, how I look at all this stuff. A little more emphasis on who's in my local radius, and a little less emphasis on posting like a madman and trying to get the internet success.
So with that being said, I kind of want to just circle back to the beginning of that because I think there's a lot of valuable like information you dropped there. One I want to talk about is the detox you've been doing. Did you do that because you were feeling overwhelmed with like social media, or were you starting to like take too many ideas from other people? Like, how has the detox help you, and what was kind of the reason behind it?
So that last reason is a great thing to consider as far as consuming stuff. I have realized if I consume a lot of content from other people, it will influence my content. I might find myself speaking like they speak a little more. I might find myself kind of losing my authenticity and my core message. And I'm very aware that I'm highly, what am I trying to say here? It's very easy for me to be influenced. Like if I find a charismatic individual and I like the way they approach a topic, like the next minute I'll suddenly be carrying myself the same way. I'm like, wait, what the hell? So I have to be mindful of that. I have to be mindful of how much I'm consuming and what kind of content I'm consuming. So that was definitely a big part of it. And then as far as the why with was it too much? Yeah, it was way too much. My wife and I we have a son that's just over a year old, and I've had this crazy high output on my phone 24/7, feeling very validated in doing that. Like this is my mission, this is my purpose. I have to grow the brand, I have to grow this business, yada yada yada. When ultimately a lot of the things I was doing, I don't want to say they were in vain, but they weren't my lowest hanging fruit, right? Like if it was really that big of an urgency, I could be putting time into other tasks that would actually make those things happen, right? So all the while, I might not have been giving my wife and son as much attention as I should have, as they needed, and she had been asking for a while, like just take a week off of everything and like see what happens. And I've done it a bunch of times, even before this was my career, just to see. And it's very strange, like the brain you'll find yourself reaching for the phone. This is for anyone that like makes content. You'll feel your brain thinking in like statuses, in posts, in video form. Now, this is crazy. I'll think of, oh, I'm gonna make this video about how when I first detoxed, I was thinking about making a video about how it was like this inception thing, and I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Like, just stop. And I'm like, yes, and then we'll say,
Detoxception.
yeah, literally, and it just goes on and on and on. And I'm still torn on that issue because on one hand, it's like if this is a necessary part of my industry, you could say, well, that's very advantageous that my brain is constantly thinking in those terms. But on the other hand, if it's at the cost of those around me, to a violent degree, and I'm not even present with them, and that goes on and on forever. It's like, wait a minute, what is this all for? Like, what is the whole point of all this? Like, sometimes I'll be sitting down with my wife and son, so distracted, thinking about tomorrow, thinking about next week, next year. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to create all this stuff, and it's like, wait a minute, look around you. Isn't this the whole point? Like I am one of the most blessed, fortunate people that I know. I have an amazing wife. We have an amazing son. Like our lives are going in this beautiful direction. And a lot of times I can't even fully take that in and breathe that in and say, wow, this is amazing. Thank you so much to God or to the universe or whatever. And take it in because I'm so like, oh yeah, 2025, we're gonna make this video, we're gonna go in this direction. So yeah, it's been a big healing process, we'll call it, these last couple of months. So very timely that we're having this podcast today. I was thinking about this morning. Very timely.
I think there's that's probably the most relatable thing I've heard, especially for anyone who's like a go-getter entrepreneur type. Like it it's the double-edged sword of trying to be productive and grow, but also like live your life the way you want to, because you want to live your life to the fullest, so you want to make the best life possible. But to make the best life possible, you got to do these things. But then you want to live your life to the fullest, so you
It's
just
a
keep
mind
going
fuck.
through this loop. I do think it's hilarious sitting there thinking about you wanted to do a detox, but as you were doing the detox, you're thinking about making content about doing the detox.
Right.
That's phenomenal. And the odd
Yeah.
thing is, I would totally watch that video. So I think you're on the right track.
I should have
Like,
made it. I should
yeah,
have
like
pulled the
I
trigger.
think sometime when you go back down the content rabbit hole, you should make that video and totally watch it. Uh, but I definitely find myself in that same scenario like all the time. I have a wonderful girlfriend, and like I'll be sitting there and she'll literally be talking to me, and I'll
Mm,
already be thinking about, okay, I need to do this tomorrow. And by the time she's done talking, I'll be like, uh, everything you just said, let's start over. And like I just feel like an asshole because
yep.
I mean I am being an asshole at the end of the day, but it's I think it's something that a lot of like, especially in the fitness industry where everything's so relationship driven that you're so focused on every other relationship that the ones closest to you are almost the hardest to keep.
Mm,
At least that's how I
yep.
found for me anyway.
Yep. No, that's real.
What's some things that you found? So you've done this detox and you're doing this detox currently, and that's helped a lot. What's some other things that you found that's like helped bridge that gap between finding a balance of like I need a post versus I need to spend time with my wife kind of thing? Because I think that's something that's super like difficult to find in this industry. So what's some things that you've done?
Yeah, just having systems in place, which that's really my whole approach to anything in life, training, nutrition. My mindset approach is systems, 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 habits, 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 trial and error until you find what seems to be the most bulletproof, perfect system ever. And it might be for a little while, and then you realize, no, actually, it's not quite perfect. We still need to adjust. So that's my whole thing anyway, right? And so the way I'm applying that to this is having cutoff times, having reminders go off on my phone. I found a wonderful free app called TickTick, Tick, a few months ago, and it has been a game changer. I use it for my business calendar. I use it for my to-do list. I have reminders that go off on custom dates or that repeat 7 days a week. So I'm a very ADHD type of person anyway. So that paired with this hustle and drive to go just conquer the world and put 110% into the stuff has been a nasty combination for me. So I need reminders that literally go off and say, Sunday, family day, put phone down. And I'm like, oh yeah. And then as I'm going to put the phone down, I'm like, hey, we should check on this stuff. And it's like, hold, I'll need a second reminder. Sunday, put phone down. Time, like I need those kind of things, and it seems maybe extreme or a little crazy to some, but it's like, hey, it works. So having reminders, having cutoff times. Hey, 5 o'clock. Is there anything else that really needs to be done after 5 o'clock? We go to bed around 8. It's like, do I really need to be cranking like every single minute of the day, or could I put the phone upstairs? Now it's a non-issue versus keeping it around. I probably won't get on it, but then I am. It's like that's a big one, just getting it out of the freaking room. If it's
Hmm.
upstairs, I disconnect it to my watch. I'm not getting notifications. It's way easier to be present versus if it's there because we'll use our phone to change the song or use our phone. Oh, actually, this is for a good reason. I need to check on something for her. Did that? Oh, why am I on Instagram? How did I get here? So having systems in place and then just trial and error, making it better and better. As I'm saying all those things, I have failed at all of those things an absurd amount of times. And she'll be like, "What happened to the phone being upstairs?" And I'll be like, "What are you talking about?" I mean, there's this meme of this show. I think you should leave, and the guy's like, "What?" He's in the restaurant, and he's just like, "What are you talking about?" Like it's literally that. She's tagging me in that because it's like, well, way too relatable. And I'll be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah." Put it up. Maybe the next day is good. Day after that, pretty good. Back to the usual BS. Hey, what happened to the phone? So as I'm saying this, there's been a painful amount of trial and error. But guess what? What's the alternative? Just having the
Just
same
giving up.
flaws and bad habits, just giving up, just doing the same silly shit forever. So it's been a very slow incremental process, slower than she would like for sure, and myself. But it is getting better. So yeah, systems, strategies, just make it better over time.
I think it's a. I think that that's one thing everyone can absolutely relate to, especially in this industry. Like the amount of times where I'm like, okay, here's the deal. I'm not going to use my phone at all on Sunday. Like on Sunday, I'm never going to use my phone. It's just going to be 100% like family time. Sunday comes around. Ah, but I just need to respond to this one email. And this one email turns into 2 hours. And then two
Yeah.
hours turns into, and like, it's the end of Sunday. And I'm like, I did my best. So yeah, I totally get where you're coming from with that because it's so
It's
easy to
hilarious.
like make the systems just so hard to keep them. And it's a never ending like dichotomy to be managed, I would say, trying to find that perfect balance. Um, so I want to touch a little bit on the content side of things because you went through the detox and you've been like kind of brainstorming how to focus on the quality over the quantity. And just full transparency, I'm actually going through a very similar thing myself right now. I was doing a lot of quantity, like just pumping out posts all the time, and got to the point where I just felt like they were all kind of just junk. Like I wouldn't have liked them. So I've started to take a step back and focus on the quality of things. You mentioned one thing already, like thinking about the person on the other side of the screen. What's some other things that you use to kind of decide, like, yes, this post is like, this is a quality post, I want to make it, versus like not being so much so? Like, what are some things you're doing to make sure you have more quality?
Yeah, so there's random stuff that just comes to mind, and I think, oh, that'll be good. I'll do that. And then there's taking a step back and thinking, what have I solved in my own life? For sure, I'll have the most confidence, the most clarity. I'll be the best articulated, the best well spoken on those videos that'll come across through the camera. People will pick up on that energy. If it's literally a problem before and now it's not a problem. So, like, what are those things? It's very easy for us to forget. And what I find is my go to will be things that are like on my mind right now, like things that are like for example, I did a very, very long weight cut. Now I'm on a surplus, intentionally gaining weight, little lean bulk, and so that's on my mind. And I'll go to say, so hey guys, look, I went from the cut to this, but I actually kept the skim milk in because if I still do that, I can have a bigger dinner. It's like maybe that would help someone. Like if someone happens to be exactly where I am, they just finished the cut, now they want a bulk. Maybe I could give them some cool tips. But like, how many people is that really? Versus like it's not as recent, but I lost 60 pounds. How many people want to lose 60 pounds? A shit ton. A ton of people like have a lot of weight they want to lose. They feel like they can't do it. They can look at my before picture and be like, there's no way that was that guy. Like I've had podcast hosts that I've been on with and they're like, I can't even see that. And I'm like, no, I looked terrible. I looked horrible. I got huge on purpose, like dirty bulking. Just wanted to get strong. It went as horrific as it possibly could. Like we've all seen some pictures and they're like, oh, my dirty bulk and why it didn't go how I thought it would. Mine has got to be the absolute worst that anyone's ever seen. It was bad. But anyways, so that is a like losing the weight, gaining the confidence, liking what I see in the mirror, how much that changed my psychology, my life, everything. That's a broader audience. That's a more relatable topic, right? And it's something that I struggled with and I solved. So I have a lot to say about that versus just sitting there thinking like, well, what's a good topic for the day? Like, what's a nice random fitness thing? Like the things that any of us have, the things that have weighed on us the most, like now that's something I never thought I could solve. And I did. Like we're going to be very excited, bring a lot of energy to those topics. So that's been a big thing.
So basically, looking like at the big milestones versus the like little pebble type deal, like the
Yeah,
things
for
that
sure.
really move forward.
For sure. And like one thing I like to remind myself is that we're really not all that different. Like an issue that was solved for someone, or rather an issue that I solved for myself, if someone has that issue, there's a really, really, really good chance that I could solve it for them by giving like the same steps. But I feel like sometimes we get weird about that. We're like, well, then they're just going to be doing like my system, don't they? Like it's almost this lack of trust in ourselves. It's like, but shouldn't they need this other resource or go to this other place? It's like, who's the better resource? Like you literally did the thing, and all of the mental pitfalls, all of the ups and downs, emotionally, mentally, physically, like you went through all of it, so you can guide them through every step of that. Yeah, look, I'm trying to lose the weight, but I feel like I'm gonna die. I'm so hungry. Well, I mean, you're not like starving yourself, right? No, I'm eating 2,300 calories. Well, you're definitely not going to die. It's very normal. You're being pretty dramatic. That's what fat loss feels like. We are going to get through this, like, unless you're in some, violent deficit. Let's not get too intense and dramatic about it. Like, it's just a little rumbly in the tumbly. You're going to be okay. Have some bubble water, have some Pellegrino or something to get a little, fake bloat going, whatever, all the different strategies that we can use.
I think that goes back to like how we started this whole conversation was focusing on like the things we really know and the things we've lived because it's going to get rid of that imposter syndrome. You're just like you said, doing it for free. You did it for free for yourself. You figured it out. Now it's just getting out there and telling everyone else how it happened. So telling a story. I think it's Gary Vee that talks about like document, don't create kind of thing. So like focusing heavy on the like documentation of here's what I've done, here's how I did it, kind of thing. Sounds like the strategy you're following anyway.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to touch a little bit on you mentioned you're a big systems guy. You mentioned that like you've kind of been improving and growing as you been going. I don't know about you, but I'm the type of person whenever it comes to systems, I'm always like, oh man, I wish I would have just done this from the beginning. Like if I would have just done this from the start, it would have been so much better. Is there something that you can think of in your business that like you wish you would have started sooner?
It's so hard to say. It's a very cliche answer, but we all go through our own ups and downs so we can get to where we are today, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm having these realizations now. Oh, this thing makes way more sense. I'm going to start doing this. But it wouldn't even have the weight that it has on it. It wouldn't have the gravity of, no, this makes that much more sense if I didn't spend a whole year having this crazy high output on all the other stuff. So if someone just told me, trust me, dude, you want to do this, it might have fallen on deaf ears. Like to a large extent, we really do have to learn our own lessons. We have to make our own mistakes and learn as we go, right? It's like I spend a lot of time speaking on mindset, trying to wake people up, literally like shake them by the shoulders, like, why are you okay with this? I see the look in your eye, like you look defeated, distraught, depressed, and we cannot ignore the fact that if you looked in the mirror and thought, wow, I can't believe that's what I'm seeing in a positive way, it would drastically change all those things versus looking in the mirror and being like, wow, I can't believe I look that way, but in a very depressing way. Like this has a huge factor on your mental health, on everything. And I want to shake them by the shoulders and be like, can we not just give this a shot? But at the end of the day, they have to come to that realization on their own. Like they have to wake up one day and be like, this, I've had enough. Like I'm sick of being sick of this. I'm tired of being tired of having these same issues. So not to go off on too much of a tangent, but yeah, it's kind of an unanswerable question because I had to learn the things that I've learned. We all do, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
but just to play ball anyway. The question was, what would I do different if I knew what I know now, basically?
Yeah, like if there's one golden nugget, if like for me, my golden nugget would have to be, because I'm a time management nut, would be calendar blocking. If I would have done that so much sooner, that would have been great. Um, but
Yeah,
just something that you
I'd
think
probably
makes
have to
sense.
I'd probably have to steal that and agree that, like I said, that app that I've been using has been an absolute game changer. I was doing a pen and paper planner for a while. Like I do like pen and paper. There's something about physically
Mhm.
writing when I do journaling and stuff. Like everyone knows if you do journaling, doing it pen and paper is going to be more effective than like typing it or having a note in your phone. I use all that stuff too, but there is something just special about the old pen and paper write. But with that being said, I would write even my schedule in my planner, then I would leave it in the house, and I'd get to the gym and be like, oh shit, like I don't even know what clients I had today. I mean, I have memory, like okay, so and so 7:30, 8:30, or it'd be in the back of the car. And I'd be in here, I'm like chasing my own tail. So I eventually accepted, like, hey, we always have the phone on us. The goal is to be on the phone less, yes, but also if my go-to app I pull up is my freaking planner versus Instagram or Facebook, that's a huge win already. So let's just start using that. So yeah, the time management, the planning, to-do lists, having your hierarchy of importance, like what's my lowest hanging fruit? What do I need the most right now? Is it another client? For most trainers, the answer is yes. Like making the content, doing this, doing that, if all that energy could be put into just getting your next client, like that's what moves the needle way more, right? And that's someone else you're going to impact their life. That's someone else that once you have impacted their life, they're going to be telling their friends and family. So it's like just having an order of importance with your to dos. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's another like really hard but important lesson that you can only learn over time is just figuring out what actually needs to be done when. You mentioned earlier about being kind of like ADHD with things.
Oh
I am
yeah.
ADHD as hell. Like I'll start off on a task, and next thing I know, I'm working on building a website, and I have no idea how I got here. It's super common. So
You're
that's one
like
thing I
Josh's
definitely struggle with.
Gundams.com. Like I didn't even know I wanted to make this. What?
Where did this come from? Did I make that? Yeah, exactly. But I think that's one of those things that I don't know if we ever perfect, but we just kind of like slightly get better at figuring out what the
Mm.
best and most important thing to get doing right now is. So I was kind of curious. You mentioned that you did a little bit online, you did a little bit in person. How does your in person model work? Do you like rent space? Do you work for a gym? How do you do it?
Yeah, I rent space out of Archetype Strength here in Raleigh. I train all my clients out of their location on North Raleigh Boulevard, but they have three different ones in the area. Very cool, private, 24/7 key access gym, low foot traffic. The gym that I came from was a legitimate private gym, meaning any person that was in there was either in a class or working with a trainer. There essentially was no people walking in and out just doing their own thing. So I wanted to find something very similar to that because I learned a lot at that gym about just how to run this in a profitable way and make it make sense. Um, in that private element, I found a lot of people that want to start working out. A big holdup for them is just that intimidation factor. It's not really liking commercial gyms or big crowded spaces. They're already a little bit like uncomfortable just setting foot in any gym, right? So if they can walk in one with less foot traffic, it's a little more quiet, it's a little more chill, a little more relaxed. That goes a long way. So found a good spot to have all my people over there. And yeah, I rent space, so work for myself. Everything is under my name. My success and my failure is completely on my shoulders, and I very much love that and thrive in that environment.
So the best of both worlds. If you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. the One of my friends made a post the other day that was like, "What drives you to be a fitness coach?" And it lists like, uh, no 401k, no health benefits, no like, no something. But then at the end, it was like limit, no cap on income, and that's
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
biggest win.
that's
Um,
hilarious. All true, all true.
So did you like so you mentioned you came from kind of a private gym. From my experience, most private gyms get a little like niche specific. Do you train a specific niche or are you kind of a broad trainer? What do you kind of focus on?
All kinds of different backgrounds. Like I'm not. I've just never been able to accept like, oh, I need to pick a lane, and everyone else that's outside of that, tell them sorry, and only seek out people that are in that. That's just never been my jam. The crazy Instagram bios for the niches are getting totally out of hand. It's like
Mhm.
I train males from 48 to 53 that are professionals that are looking to gain 5 pounds this month. It's like it's gotten absurdly specific, and I'm like, who even is that? And I guess the idea is if someone just magically happens to fit all that criteria, they're like, this guy was made for me. He was sent from God himself. Like, this is my fit. So I get the idea. It's like it's this kind of catching people in a net, but I don't know. I feel like people are kind of wising up to that and getting smarter, and they're like, oh, I'm not falling for that. Maybe not. I mean, I kind of see right through it, so I hope other people do too. But
Yeah.
I think that's a great point you made. Online is probably better if you only do online, because then you can target just those people. You can find those hashtags. You can find those groups, and they're like, oh, that's my guy. Whereas to your point, brick and mortar, it's like anyone that walks in the door, whether they need to gain weight, lose weight, move better, feel better, it's like you're my person. I'm your person. I'm your coach. Let's go.
I think I also this might just be industry biased, and I'm not entirely sure. I might just be getting like overly picky because I'm into industry and like I see it all the time. But when I see one of those bios, it's like I've seen it so much now that it doesn't feel real anymore. Like it feels
Yes,
like
yes.
this fake persona, and it just kind of gets on my nerves.
And that very well could be industry bias because we see all these fitness accounts all the time, right? Whereas someone that barely is active on Instagram, they might just be going through one day. That might be the first account they've ever seen with a bio like that. And they're
Mhm.
like, "Oh my God, this is it. The stars have
Yeah.
aligned." So maybe I don't know, maybe we're hating on something that's working, but we just see it so much. It's like, nah, this is getting kind of silly.
Yeah, we've turned into those old men who's like, get off my lawn. Like, that's where we're at now. We've been in the industry too long. I really respect the fact that you like try to stick to the basics and stick to the things that you know work and not make people do some circus act because it looks different for the sake of being different.
That's exactly what it is. And on one hand, if someone can come in and you're like, oh, I have this secret exercise that you've never seen, and we're going to do this. This is, this is only something reserved for my clients, and they're like, oh, and this is the thing too. You can make anything hard. So an exercise being difficult or challenging doesn't inherently mean it's legit. So someone can be like, shaking on the Bosu ball, and they're like, oh man, that smoked me. And they're like, yep, that's my secret sauce right there. And they're like, can I pay for the year in full? Like, I get why they do that. And obviously it works to a degree as far as that marketing aspect and retaining clients. I think one thing that one fear that a lot of coaches can have is if I make it too normal, is it not going to be appealing? Are they going to be like, oh, isn't this just like what everyone else does? Like I could do this on my own. I had that mental block when I first started doing online coaching because I would go to change the exercises and I would think if this was my training, I wouldn't change it yet. I just wouldn't. I'd be continuing to do this exercise for another like 3 or 4, I might maybe it'd be 6 weeks straight, so I can actually progress on it. But if they keep seeing nothing change, are they going to think, well, what am I paying for? That was a huge concern of mine. And then I eventually got over it, and I'm like, I just tell all my clients, kind of like what I said earlier, my goal is to steer you in the right direction and steer you away from the wrong direction. So if sticking to this exercise for even 2 months straight is going to get you a phenomenal result, I would rather do that at the risk of you getting a little bored or like, why isn't this changing? And then next thing you know, 2 months later, you literally have to buy a new suit because your freaking traps and triceps are busting out of your suit jacket. That actually happened to an online client of mine that I'm thinking about. And then the results speak for themselves. So it's kind of more like a long play. Like you could do different things every workout and keep a client entertained. And guess what? I see that. And those clients very often, they look the same month after month, maybe even year after year.
No, I could not agree more. Like I'm a huge fan of linear progression because it works. It's easier to track, you can see the results faster, and you can literally
Yes.
see yourself getting better. If you change the exercise all the time, you can't. And to another point on this too, when I first started, I had the same issue where I was constantly like worried, like if I don't change it all the time, people are gonna think that like I'm not paying attention. Um, the one thing that I learned is I would change exercises and they wouldn't even notice. I was changing because I was bored. Like I had, they didn't even know that I changed the exercise. They're like, why am I doing something different? Like, what, what? I just did this. Like, what's happening? And I ran into that quite a bit whenever I first started. I actually distinctly remember one client I had that like he did 2 weeks of one workout and I changed it. Then 2 weeks later, I changed it again. And one day he came in and he looked at his program, it was different again. He's like, why is it always different? Like, why can't I, like, I'm just now getting the routine down. Can we just, like, go back to what I was doing? And I was like, oh, yeah, I just thought you were bored, so I changed it. And he's like, no, I'm fine. I just want to come in here, work out, and not think for a little while. And I was like, cool, that makes
Wow.
perfect sense.
That is some real shit. That is real.
Yeah. And there's the amount of people that pay me as a coach or paid me as a coach just so they didn't have to think was probably more than the ones that actually came to me because they had a dire pain or need. It was just they kind of knew what they were doing. They just didn't want to think about it anymore.
100%. Yep. Yep. That's a great perspective. Just putting yourself in their shoes. It's not a slight on them or on clients in general, but a lot of times 98% of the time, I care way more than they do, like to a painful degree. Like I lay awake at night thinking about, man, I hope they track their macros today. And it's not on their mind, or I'm thinking like, oh man, they got this big lift tomorrow. Like, I think we're ready. I mean, yeah, we put in all the work. Like tomorrow's the day, we're gonna find out. And for them, it might not hold the same weight and the same gravity. So that's a great reminder. And again, that's not a slight on them. It's just about like where is this person at? Like that do they just want an hour to kind of unplug from the rest of the world, get after it? They don't have to think about the weights they're putting on or the order of exercises. I'm running the show. I'm steering them, in every single direction. So yeah, that's a really good reminder.
Yeah, and to touch on that too, like the amount of times that someone's like hit a PR and I'm just jacked about it, and they're just like, okay, yeah, cool. I'm like,
Did I do good?
you you just like doubled your last PR. What are you talking about? And they're like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's neat, I guess. I'm like jumping off walls here, excited.
that's hilarious.
Yeah, that's happened way too often. I I think that I think we have a lot in common. I definitely look forward to having you in a podcast again in the future and learning more about how the detox is going. But for now, if anyone's interested in learning more about you, what's the best way to follow you?
Yeah, definitely Instagram, Oak City Strong. I'm still very active on there, as far as checking DMs and still having that social connection. So Instagram, I am very active on YouTube, 3 videos a week. That's mostly mindset stuff, just little reminders, trying to help us all live our highest quality of life, things that I've resolved in myself or things that I've helped other people with. Just give these little nudges in the right direction, a little bit of motivation. So those would be the big two.
Awesome, awesome. Well, if you want to get a hold of Elijah and learn more, feel free to check the links out below. I'll be sure to link those things. And I appreciate you being on the show, man. I can't wait
Yeah,
to hear more about you later on.
awesome. Thanks for having me.